In the wake of Osama bin Laden's death, the Republican spin machine is already in hyperdrive, of course, claiming credit should really go to President Bush. What a joke. So let's straighten out the record once and for all. Here's what House Majority Leader Eric Cantor said, quote, "I commend President Obama, who has followed the vigilance of President Bush in bringing bin Laden to justice." Or take a listen to Karl Rove.
The tools that President Bush put into place, Gitmo, rendition, enhanced interrogation, the vast effort to collect and collate this information, put it in a usable form, obviously served his successor quite well.
See, it's all thanks to Bush. Former Bush White House Chief of Staff Andrew Card is making the same claim.
He made sure that everything was in place so that President Obama could have an opportunity to get Osama bin Laden.
And that's just few of the Republicans pushing this same idea. But here's the reality. George Bush deserves zero credit for killing bin Laden. First of all, as crazy as it sounds, Bush himself said he wasn't focused on Osama bin Laden at all. Here's what he said in 2002.
I don't know where he is, nor, I just don't spend that much time on him, Kelly, to be honest with you.
That's unbelievable, right? How could the president say that about a man who killed nearly 3,000 Americans? It must have been a slip-up, right? Apparently not, because listen to him say the same thing again in a different way.
And, again, I don't know where he is. I repeat what I said. I truly am not that concerned about him.
This is the guy that Republicans are now saying should get credit for capturing bin Laden? The guy who said he wasn't concerned at all? Come on. And if you don't want to take Bush just at his word, then take a look at his record. First, he had 8 years to get bin Laden. And I got news for you. He didn't do it. To make excuses afterwards is just sad. But the details are even more damning. Remember, in December 2001, they had bin Laden cornered. Here's what a commando from Delta Force said about why bin Laden escaped from Tora Bora.
The original plan that we sent up to our higher headquarters, Delta Force wants to come in over the mountain with oxygen, coming from the Pakistan side, over the mountains and come in and get a drop on bin Laden from behind.
Why didn't you do that?
Disapproved at some level above us. Whether that was Central Command or all the way up to the President of the United States, I'm not sure.
And sure enough, a 2009 Senate investigation pinned the blame on top-level Bush officials. Quote, "The decision not to deploy American forces to go after bin Laden or block his escape was made by Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld and his top commander, General Tommy Franks. They literally refused to send in troops to get bin Laden even when they knew he was cornered. And now they want the credit? Are you kidding me?" Then in 2006, just in case anyone still thought Bush cared about bin Laden, he took decisive action. Bush allowed the CIA to shut down a unit that had been hunting bin Laden for a decade. The reason, according to the New York Times, officials had decided bin Laden wasn't the threat he once was. So much for wanted dead or alive. That same year, Bush hammered home the point, explaining that a massive hunt for bin Laden didn't square with his military strategy. Quote, "This thing about let's put 100,000 of our special forces stomping through Pakistan in order to find bin Laden is just simply not the strategy that will work." Wrong again. Special forces did kill bin Laden in Pakistan, except it was under a competent president, a president who cared to actually get the job done. Bush's effort, or lack of effort, to get bin Laden was pathetic and a complete failure. The only thing sadder is Republicans now trying to take credit for it. With me now is Joan Walsh, editor-at-large of Salat. Joan, the nerve of them to try to take credit for this when the guy was laying down on the job.
Right.
Am I getting any part of this wrong?
No, as far as I can tell, you got it all right, Cenk. They don't like it, but you got it all right. I mean, first of all, just the nerve of them both to have all this record where they said, we don't care about him, we're not going to find him, we're going to shut down the unit, he's not important, but now they're claiming credit as though it obviously was important. I mean, that's ridiculous enough. you know, you had Dick Cheney from day one of the Obama administration saying this man is going to make us less safe, and he's got terrible policies on terror, and he's going to give up the fight, when he's been in so many ways so much more effective than they have. They've caught a lot of people on his watch. So, you know, the lies don't end. And Karl Rove is very proud of enhanced interrogation. But, you know, today even Donald Rumsfeld came out and said that had nothing to do with the information that they got. So, you know, when you've got Rumsfeld admitting that, it's a pretty dark day for Republicans.
You know, we're going to talk about that a little later in the program, too, but they're stretching, because what do they have? I mean, look, I don't present just my opinions on the show. We just showed you all the facts. We just showed Bush himself saying, I don't care. I don't want to get, you know, he didn't say I don't want to get bin Laden, but you heard the tape. He said, I am unconcerned, right?
Right.
So
and then
my question is,
he doesn't matter anymore.
So, Joan, why was that? Why did he say over and over again, I'm not concerned about getting bin Laden? That seems like a crazy thing to say, even if you thought it.
You know, it's not that crazy to me. If you think about the sort of psychology of George W. Bush, he's a guy who, if he can't do it, if he can't get it right, he'll act like it's not worth doing. We saw that over and over. And so I think, you know, maybe he felt bad, maybe he didn't, but they were failing so miserably, it was easy for him to kind of just shrug it off. Well, you know, we're not doing it. I don't care about it. Remember when he couldn't think of one mistake he'd made, you know, at a press conference midway through his presidency? It's like he had this amazing capacity of denial, basically. So I think that, I don't know if he was telling the truth, but I think that this was a common psychological trait that he had, to just shrug off things that he wasn't doing well and say they didn't matter.
Yeah, it reminds me of a kid who doesn't do his math homework because he's too late, and they say, I don't really care about math anyway. Who cares about math?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
So the thing is, though, Joan, if you let him get away with it, they wind up just repeating this over and over and over again, which they will. You'll see. I mean, they will go on the warpath saying it was Bush, it was Bush, it was Bush, until, unfortunately, some of the media starts saying, oh, was it Bush? I don't know. I guess they should both get it. And of course, one of the things they'll do is they'll say, Joan, you shouldn't politicize this.
Right. We're the ones politicizing it when they're the ones saying this. You know, and I don't mean to politicize it anymore, but I also think it needs to be said that part of our problems in 2001 and 2002, and you alluded to it, is that the Bush administration just did not take seriously that Osama bin Laden was a threat. They really were not focused on al-Qaeda, and it was specifically because they had decided to make a clean break with the Clinton administration. Nothing Clinton was doing could have mattered, could have been important. It's that same kind of denial, right? If Clinton's doing it, doesn't matter. They demoted, they ignored Richard Clark. We know what happened. And so I'm not going to say that 9/11 could have been prevented. No one can say that. But it's sort of incontrovertible to me that if they had maintained that same focus that Clinton acquired, sadly, through tragedy, the first bombing and the Cole bombing, et cetera, if they had kept his focus, things might have turned out very differently. We might not have had to have two unnecessary wars. So, I think we have to hit back.
Let me add one last thing here. When they gave him the warning that al-Qaeda was going to attack, he said, okay, you've covered your ass, now go home.
Right.
That guy wants credit. He said, I don't want to swat at flies. And he went on vacation.
Yeah,
Please.
I remember that.
All right, Joan Walsh, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.